Module 2, Epistemology, Rationalism and Empiricism. Lecture 2D, Kant, Putting Rationalism and Empiricism Together. Immanuel Kant, 1724 to 1804. Kant is often considered the most original philosopher of the modern era. Kant said that reading Hume awoke me from my dogmatic slumber. In order to understand Kant, let us begin with a thought experiment. Imagine that your entire life you've been wearing red glasses since you were an infant. If you looked out the window, you know in advance that the world would look red. What kind of statement is the world will look red? It is not true by definition, so it's not analytic, it's synthetic. But you know it's true before you look out into the world, so it is not a posteriori, but a priori. Kant spoke of something new, a priori synthetic statements. We can learn truths about the world not by looking at the world, but based on categories in our mind. Our mind is organized to see the world in a certain way. Kant taught that we cannot know the world as it really is, the noumenal world. We can only know the way our mind observes the world, the phenomenal world, how our mind organizes how we see the world. He believed that the mind organizes the sense perceptions according to pre-established categories of experience. These include space, time, causality, substance. These were a priori synthetic statements about the world. For example, if we say that every event has a cause, that is an a priori synthetic statement. It is part of how our mind sees the world. If Hume took causality out of the world, Kant put it back. But for Kant, it happens in our perception of the world. The real world in and of itself is unknown. In his great book, The Critique of Pure Reason, Kant combined rationalism and empiricism. Our mind is not a blank slate, as Locke taught. It is built to organize data that it receives in a certain way. In that sense, he was a rationalist. But it does receive data from the world. In that sense, he's an empiricist. However, it cannot know the world as it really is, only our mind and the way our mind sees it. The term used for Kant's philosophy is often called transcendental idealism. Kant called his view a Copernican revolution in philosophy. Until now, philosophy tried to build a God's eye view of the world. How does God see the world? Now we have a human eye view called the turn to the subject. The mind became the center of philosophy, just as the sun became the center of the solar system, according to Copernicus. The way our mind is built organizes how we see the world. But that is only the phenomenal world, not the noumenal world. His view would lead to Einstein. The view depends on the observer. Kant also invented deontological ethics, an ethical system based on a priori duties that we know in our mind. We will study him when we look at ethics. He also developed an understanding of aesthetics, how the mind appreciates art. Kant's philosophy is based on the use of reason and the importance of the rational mind. In a famous essay, What is the Enlightenment?, he famously said, sapere aude, or dare to reason, also translated dare to know. Few philosophers put such importance on reason as fundamental to human dignity. Others would attack Kant as ignoring human emotions and passions. In fact, one can say that the Romantic period in art and philosophy grew as a reaction to the Enlightenment overemphasis on human reason. It was a reaction to people like Kant. Kant spent his entire life in his birthplace of Königsberg, then in Prussia. He was a man of habit. People set their watches based on the time he went on his daily walk. On his tombstone is one of his most famous quotes. Two things fill the mind with ever new and increasing admiration and awe. The more often and steadily we reflect on them. The the starry heavens above me, and the moral law within me. Those words within me, within our mind, how our mind sees the world, is basic to understanding Immanuel Kant.